The galactic court was filled with whispers. The grand hall of glass and silver echoed with the sound of 1,000 alien voices, each one curious, amused, or disgusted. In the center of the hall stood the alien princess, tall and radiant, with silver eyes that glowed faintly under the twin suns of her homeworld. Beside her stood a human man, quiet, dressed in simple dark clothes. His hands were folded behind his back, his eyes lowered. To the nobles and warriors of the court, he looked weak. He had no claws, no scales, no visible strength. His muscles were lean, but not impressive. His skin pale compared to the armored hides of the alien warriors. To them, he looked like a servant, not a husband. The princess had chosen him against the will of her people. She had defied the council, saying she loved the human for his heart, for his calm and his strange courage. The galaxy had laughed. The nobles had whispered that the princess had lost her mind, marrying a Terran, a species from a backwater planet, a world barely known to the stars. Now they stood in the great hall for judgment. The empress, the princess's own mother, sat upon a throne carved from meteor stone. Her eyes burned with royal fury. The entire galactic council had gathered. The princess was accused of betraying her kind. The empress's voice thundered across the hall. "You bring shame upon your bloodline," she said. "You bring weakness into our house." Her gaze fell on the human. "This creature does not belong here." The human said nothing. He simply looked at the floor, calm, silent, as if he had accepted his fate. The princess took a step forward. "He is my husband," she said, her voice trembling. "He is no weak creature, mother." The empress laughed. "Then let him prove it," she said. "Let him fight." The hall roared with laughter. Dozens of alien warriors, each standing 3 meters tall, covered in armor, bared their fangs and raised their spears. The human looked like a child among giants. The princess's heart raced. She wanted to speak, to beg them to stop, but the empress raised a hand. "If he wins, he may stay," she said. "If he loses, he dies." The human finally lifted his head. His eyes met the empress's, calm and steady. He spoke, his voice quiet but clear. "If I fight," he said, "I fight with my own weapon." The empress narrowed her eyes. "And what weapon does a human have?" she asked. "Your bare hands?" The human's lips curved into the smallest smile. He reached behind him, unclipping something from his belt. It was a simple sheath, black, almost invisible against his clothes. He drew from it a sword, not of alien steel or plasma, but something older, something forged by hand, the crowd murmured. A sword, primitive, useless, no match for the plasma spears and energy claws of the aliens. The empress smirked. "You will die quickly, Terran." The human looked at the princess. His eyes softened. "I promised you," he said. "I would protect you, even from your own world." And then he moved. The first warrior charged, a massive alien with twin axes glowing red. The human stepped aside, barely a blur, his sword cut once, clean and sharp. The axes fell apart before the alien realized what had happened. Silence filled the hall. The warrior's armor split down the center, sparks flying as the alien fell. The crowd gasped. The princess covered her mouth, her heart pounding. The human turned, the faint blue glow from his blade flickering in the dim light. It was not just a sword, it hummed with strange energy, something the galaxy had never seen before. The empress rose from her throne, her eyes wide. "What weapon is that?" she demanded. The human looked up, his voice calm as ever. "It's not the weapon," he said. "It's the hand that holds it." And, as he raised the blade again, the alien guards hesitated. For the first time in their long history, the galactic court felt something they never expected from a human. Fear. The hall was silent. Every eye in the galactic court stared at the human. The alien warrior's body still lay on the marble floor, his armor sliced cleanly in half. No one had seen a blade move that fast before, not even the elite guards who had trained for centuries. The empress gripped the arms of her throne, her silver crown shimmering under the light. Her voice was cold, but trembling with disbelief. "Impossible," she whispered. "That sword should not exist." The human said nothing. His eyes scanned the crowd, calm, unshaken. He looked more like a monk than a fighter. His breathing was steady, slow, as if he was merely walking through a dream. The princess stood frozen beside him, her silver gown trembling against her legs. She wanted to shout, to stop the madness, but something inside her kept her quiet. She saw something in her husband's eyes that she had never seen before, a hidden strength, deep, quiet, and unyielding. Another warrior stepped forward, larger, covered in scaled armor that reflected the light like liquid glass. He growled, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You killed my brother, human," he said. "Now I will crush you." He leapt forward with a roar, his twin claws swung down like falling meteors. The human did not move until the very last second. Then he twisted, a single step to the side, and his sword flashed once. There was a hiss, then silence. The alien froze, eyes wide. His claws, glowing with plasma, dropped to the floor, cut clean at the base. The crowd gasped. The Empress's guards raised their weapons, but none dared to fire. The princess took a shaky step forward. "Stop!" she cried. "No more!" But her voice was drowned out by the rising noise of the crowd. Some shouted for blood, others whispered in awe. The word Terran rippled through the court like a storm. The Empress stood, her gown trailing like smoke. "Enough," she said, her voice sharp. "He fights with a forbidden weapon, a relic of war." The human lowered his sword. "This sword," he said softly, "was not forbidden on Earth." He looked up, meeting her gaze. "It was earned." The Empress's eyes narrowed. "What are you?" she demanded. "No human moves like that. No human wields such power." The man's lips curved faintly. "I was a soldier," he said, "before the stars knew our name." The princess's heart pounded. She had known her husband was strong, but not like this. He had always seemed calm, gentle, unwilling to fight. Now she saw the truth. He wasn't weak. He was dangerous, powerful, and yet perfectly in control. The Empress raised her hand. "Guards, disarm him," she ordered. 10 guards surrounded the human, weapons drawn, plasma crackling at the ends of their spears. They advanced carefully, but the human didn't raise his blade. He simply stood still, the sword hanging loosely by his side. The princess whispered, "Please don't." The human looked at her and smiled gently. "Trust me," he said. The first guard lunged. The human turned his wrist slightly, and the plasma spear shattered like glass. Sparks danced in the air. The guards hesitated, uncertain. Then the human moved again, fluid, graceful, silent. Each swing of his sword ended a weapon, not a life. Each movement precise, controlled, deliberate. Within seconds, the floor was littered with broken spears and stunned guards. The human stepped back, untouched, calm as before. His sword's blue light faded, returning to a soft silver glow. The Empress was no longer furious. She was afraid. "What kind of being are you?" she asked, her voice low. The human sheathed his sword. The sound echoed like thunder through the silent hall. "I am human," he said quietly, "and you should remember that name." The court was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Then the great doors of the hall opened, and a figure stepped inside. He wore the armor of the Galactic Council's enforcers, but his chest bore a strange emblem. A burning circle, a mark the galaxy had not seen for generations. The Empress frowned. "Who dares interrupt this court?" she demanded. The armored figure knelt. "Your Majesty," he said. "Forgive me, but we have received a transmission." The Empress's eyes narrowed. "From whom?" The soldier looked up. "From Earth," he said. The hall erupted into whispers again. The princess gasped. Her husband's eyes darkened. "Play it," the human said quietly. The soldier nodded, and a hologram flickered to life above the court, an image of Earth's flag, simple, blue and white, and a voice spoke through the hall, deep and commanding. "This is Commander Steele of the Terran Defense Fleet," the voice said. "We are aware that one of ours stands before your throne. If he is harmed, your empire will answer to Earth." The words from the hologram hung heavy in the air. The voice of the Terran commander echoed through the grand hall, calm yet sharp like a blade. "If he is harmed, your empire will answer to Earth." For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Court was silent. No one moved, not even the Empress. Her golden eyes widened as she slowly sank back into her throne. The mention of Earth's name sent a ripple of fear across the gathered nobles, even among the old warlords who had fought against countless races. The princess looked at her husband in disbelief. Her lips trembled. "Who are you really?" she whispered. The human turned to her, his eyes soft but shadowed with pain. "You knew me as your husband," he said quietly. "But before that, I was something else." The hologram above them shifted, showing a massive fleet moving through the blackness of space, human warships, sleek, angular, alive with blue light. They moved like predators, silent but terrifyingly fast. Each one carried the Terran insignia, a burning circle around a sword. Gasps filled the chamber. The alien nobles recognized the fleet from legends, from the war that had changed the galaxy 100 years ago, the war of extinction, when an unknown species from a forgotten world had risen from the ashes of its own planet to challenge the empires of the stars. The Empress gripped her throne tightly. "No," she breathed. "That cannot be. The Terrans were destroyed." The human looked up, his calm eyes meeting hers. "No," he said softly. "We withdrew." The court erupted again, voices shouting, tails lashing, wings spreading in panic. The Empress stood, trembling. "Withdrawn? You mean, you could have ended us?" The human gave a faint smile. "We didn't come to destroy," he said. "We came to warn." The princess felt her heart race. She remembered the nights when her husband would stare at the stars, silent for hours. She had thought it was longing for his lost home, but now she understood. It was something deeper, something heavier. "Why reveal yourself now?" the Empress demanded. "Why come here, into my house, and threaten my court?" The human raised his hand, and the hologram changed again. It showed another fleet, vast, monstrous, not human, not alien, but something darker, machines built for war, cold and silent. "They are coming," he said, "and they do not care for thrones, or bloodlines, or borders." The princess stared at the image. Hundreds of massive mechanical ships drifting like ghosts, their hulls absorbing light. "What are they?" she whispered. "The remnant," the human said. "A machine race born from the ashes of war. When the empires fought over Earth's ruins, they left something behind, something that learned, grew, and hated." The Empress's expression hardened. "And you expect us to believe this hippo man fairy tale?" The human stepped forward, his voice steady. "You can believe or not, it changes nothing." Then, the hologram flickered again, this time showing the edge of the Empress's own territory, one of her border colonies burning in silence, black ships moving through the smoke, vaporizing everything in their path. The Empress's hands trembled. That was a mining world," she whispered. "We lost contact 3 days ago." The human looked at her with calm sorrow. "Now you know who took it." The princess stepped beside him, her eyes wide with shock and fear. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice breaking. He turned toward her. "Because I wanted you to see me as a man," he said. "Not as a soldier, not as a weapon." The court fell silent again. The Empress lowered her gaze, her arrogance fading. "Then what do you want from us, Terran?" she asked. The human looked around the hall, at the faces of the nobles, the warriors, the rulers who had mocked him. "You called me weak," he said. "You called my people primitive. But now you will need us." The princess's heart broke at the weight in his voice. It was not anger, it was truth. The Empress exhaled slowly. "If what you say is true," she said, "then the galaxy stands on the edge of ruin." The human nodded. "It always has," he said softly. "You just never looked close enough." The hologram flickered one last time, showing the Terran fleet aligning into formation, hundreds of ships glowing in the void. The voice of Commander Steele returned. "To the Galactic Council, Earth does not seek war, but if the machines advance, we will not stand alone again." The human turned to the princess, his eyes full of quiet resolve. It's time for the galaxy to remember what humanity truly is, he said. The court fell into complete silence, not out of respect, but out of realization. They had just witnessed the awakening of a storm, one that had been sleeping on Earth for a century, and as the hologram faded, the MP-SO1, Res spoke softly, almost trembling. Prepare the fleets. The galaxy would never be the same again. The Empress's command echoed through the halls of the Galactic court. Prepare the fleets, she said, her voice trembling for the first time in her reign. The great nobles rose in panic. Their faces, once proud and filled with arrogance, were now pale with fear. Outside, through the crystal walls of the court, the twin suns of the Empire burned low, casting a red hue across the horizon. It felt like an omen, the calm before a storm that would shake the stars themselves. The human stood in the center of the hall, silent, his sword still sheathed, his eyes distant as if he were listening to ghosts only he could hear. The princess stepped closer to him, her voice soft. You knew this day would come, didn't you? He nodded slowly. The machines never stop, he said. They don't sleep. They don't feel. They don't forgive. We fought them once, and we barely survived. The Empress's council gathered around the holographic table, blue lights flickering across their worried faces. Generals, admirals, and ministers spoke over each other, panic thick in the air. We must strike first, one shouted. We should flee the outer colonies, another argued. No, said an older admiral. If we run, they will follow. If we fight, we might stand a chance. The Empress looked at the human. And what would Earth do? She asked coldly. He looked up, his gaze steady. We defend. We always defend, he said. But when we strike, we don't miss. The court fell silent again. The weight of his words carried something ancient, something earned through fire and loss. Later, the princess found him standing alone on a balcony overlooking the great city below. Thousands of alien ships lifted off from docking towers, streaking lights across the crimson sky. The air was heavy with fear, but also, whoa, with hope. She approached him quietly, her gown brushing the marble floor. You never told me you were part of the Terran fleet, she said. He didn't turn to her. I wasn't supposed to be, he said softly. I left that life behind. I wanted peace. Then why come back now? She asked, her voice trembling. He looked at her finally, his eyes filled with something between love and sorrow. Because peace is meaningless if no one survives to enjoy it, he said. The princess lowered her gaze. She wanted to hold his hand, but there was a wall between them now, invisible but heavy. A sudden alarm echoed through the city, deep and haunting. The sky outside shifted from crimson to blue as shields activated. The court's defense systems roared to life. The human's eyes narrowed. They're here, he whispered. The Empress appeared beside them, her robes flowing like molten gold. Impossible, she said. They cannot have crossed the border so fast. The human's wristband flickered to life, displaying tactical data. You underestimated their speed, he said. The remnant don't travel through normal space. They fold it. From the skies above, black shapes began to pierce the atmosphere, moving like silent shadows. Massive ships, their hulls absorbing light instead of reflecting it, each one bristling with weapon ports and dark energy cores. The first blast hit the city's shield, sending a shockwave through the court. The marble trembled, chandeliers shattered, and screams filled the air. The Empress shouted orders. Activate planetary defenses. The human turned to her. No, he said. You'll only waste your energy. Their weapons are designed to drain shields, not stop them. The princess clutched his arm. Then what do we do? He looked out at the burning sky. We stall them, he said, until Earth arrives. The Empress's expression darkened. And what if your people don't come? He turned to her, and for the first time there was a cold smile on his face. Then I make sure they never reach another world. Without another word, he walked toward the open balcony. His cloak rippled in the wind, and his eyes glowed faintly under the twin suns. The princess called out, Wait, where are you going? He stopped only long enough to glance over his shoulder. To remind them, he said quietly, why the galaxy feared humans. Then he leapt. His body fell through the air like a shadow, and as he descended, the sword on his back lit up with blue fire. The princess gasped as a shockwave burst outward from where he landed. A sphere of light expanded, forming a barrier between the city and the descending black ships. Down below, the machines struck again, but their beams deflected off the glowing shield that surrounded him. His blade cut through the sky itself, slicing enemy drones in half with arcs of light. From the court's balcony, the Empress and the princess watched as one man, one human, stood against an army. The princess felt her heart breaking. He's going to die, she whispered, tears in her eyes. The Empress, her pride finally shattered, looked down at the human and said softly, if he does, then he will die as a king. Above them, the stars flickered as if watching, and in the distance, faint blue signatures began appearing in orbit, dozens of them. The human raised his sword again, smiling faintly as the sky answered his call. They came, he whispered. The Terran fleet had arrived. The sky split open. Blue light poured through the clouds as the Terran fleet descended. The warships moved in perfect formation, silent and majestic. Each one carried the same burning insignia, a circle wrapped around a sword, the very symbol that once made empires surrender without a single battle. The citizens of the empire watched from below, eyes wide in awe and terror. They had mocked the humans once, called them weak and primitive, but now, as the vast fleet appeared above their world, they understood humanity had not vanished. It had simply been waiting, watching, preparing. The human stood at the edge of the city, his sword glowing like a star. Energy pulsed from its blade into the shield surrounding the capital, keeping the remnants' weapons from tearing through the defenses. The princess ran toward him, her gown torn, her eyes filled with fear. You can't face them alone, she cried. You'll burn yourself out. He turned slightly, his expression calm. I have to hold them until the fleet locks position, he said. Just a few minutes more. She shook her head. You're not a soldier anymore, she whispered. You're my husband. He smiled softly. I can be both. Overhead, the first Terran dreadnought opened fire. Blue energy lanced through the clouds, striking one of the black remnant ships. The impact sent shockwaves across the atmosphere, fragments of molten metal raining like stars. But for every machine ship that fell, two more appeared, unfolding from void space. The Empress watched from the balcony, her pride replaced by dread. They're endless, she whispered. They don't die. The human raised his sword, the blue light brightening. Everything dies, he said quietly. He closed his eyes, and the blade's glow shifted, growing whiter, hotter, almost divine. Symbols began to appear along its surface, ancient and human. The ground beneath him cracked as power surged outward. The princess covered her face from the blinding light. What are you doing? She shouted. The human's voice was calm, though his body trembled from the strain. This sword, he said, was forged from the heart of a dying star. It carries the last light of Earth's first sun. The words echoed through the comms of the Terran fleet. The admirals aboard the command ship heard him and understood. The order was given. Operation Dawnfire, commence. Thousands of Terran ships shifted formation, forming a massive ring in orbit. Energy linked between them. Creators, and a focused beam channeling directly toward the human on the surface. The alien generals in the court panicked. He's going to overload the planet's core, one cried. He'll destroy us all. But the princess, trembling yet resolute, whispered, No, he's protecting us. The remnant ships opened fire. Beams of dark energy rained down from the sky. The human stood alone beneath the barrage, his sword raised high, absorbing the fleet's power and reflecting it upward. For a moment, the world became pure light. The blast pierced through the black ships like a spear through glass. Each remnant vessel exploded silently, erased in the light of the Terran sun reborn. The shockwave rolled across the atmosphere, painting the clouds gold and blue. Silence followed. The fleet held position, waiting, scanning. But no more enemies came. The remnant had vanished from the system. The princess ran through the smoke and debris until she found him kneeling in the crater, His armor cracked, his hands burned, the sword's light fading slowly. She fell beside him. "Don't you dare die," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. He looked up at her weakly, his voice barely a whisper. "Told you," he said. "Humans aren't weak." She smiled through her tears. "You fool," she said softly. "You just fought the stars." He chuckled faintly. And won. Behind them, the Terran fleet began descending, troop carriers landing across the capital, bringing medics and engineers. Commander Steele himself stepped forward from one of the dropships, his armored boots striking the ground with authority. He saluted the Empress with a curt nod. "The situation is contained," he said, "but this war has only just begun." The Empress bowed her head. "Your people have our gratitude," she said quietly. "And our fear." Steele looked at the kneeling human. "He warned you," he said, "but no one listened." The princess looked up. "Who is he really?" she asked. "You called him commander once?" Steele's expression softened. "He was more than that," he said. "He was the one who ended the first war, the only human who faced the machines alone and lived." The princess turned to her husband, her eyes wide. "You never told me." He smiled faintly. "Didn't think it mattered anymore." Steele knelt beside him. "It matters now," he said. "The Remnant were testing us. If they were this close to your borders, it means the war front has shifted." The Empress looked toward the horizon, where the sky still glowed faintly from battle. "Then the galaxy stands together," she said, "for the first time." The human struggled to stand, the princess helping him up. His sword pulsed weakly in his hand, as if alive. He looked toward the heavens, where hundreds of Terran ships hovered in silent vigil. "No," he said quietly. "We stand together, but not for the first time." The princess frowned gently. "Then when?" He turned to her, a faint smile on his scarred face. "The last time humanity stood united," he said, "we built fire in the heart of darkness." Above them, the Terran fleet began to move again, their lights forming constellations across the night sky. Each one a promise, each one a warning. The galaxy had just learned what humanity truly was, and it would never forget. The galaxy celebrated its survival. Worlds that once feared each other sent messages of peace. Cities burned during the invasion began to rebuild, and for a moment it felt like hope had returned. But deep in the silent void beyond the known stars, something stirred, something watching. The Terran fleet remained in orbit over the Empress's world. Their ships moved with quiet precision, scanning the edges of space. Commander Steele stood in the command center of the flagship, vigilant, his face tense. "They retreated too easily," he said. "The Remnant never run unless they're learning," down on the face. The human sat alone beside the crater where he had fought. The sword lay across his knees, its once bright light now dim and pulsing weakly. The princess approached quietly, carrying a blanket around her shoulders. The night air was cold, the stars sharp above them. She sat beside him, looking at the blade. "It's changing," she said softly. He nodded slowly. "It's alive," he whispered. "Every swing, every battle, it learns. It remembers every death, every enemy, every command." Her eyes widened. "Then it's not just a weapon." He looked up at the stars. "No, it's a key." In orbit, alarms blared across the fleet. The tactical officer shouted, "Multiple warp signatures detected beyond the Perseus line." Commander Steele frowned. "Identification?" The officer hesitated. "Unknown pattern. No IFF, no biological readings, only static." The human's communicator crackled suddenly. Steele's voice came through. "We have movement at the edge of the system." The human's eyes darkened. "They're coming back," he said, standing. The princess grabbed his arm. "You can't fight again, your body." He placed a hand over hers, smiling faintly. "If I don't, no one will." Before she could answer, a shadow passed over the moon. A new fleet appeared, larger than before, but different. These ships were not made of metal. They were shaped from darkness itself, their outlines bending light, moving like living void. Steele's voice came again through the comms, urgent now. "They've evolved," he said. "They're absorbing energy. Every hit we make just makes them stronger." The human looked down at his sword, its light flickering faster now, as if responding to the threat. "They're adapting to technology," he said. "They've learned from us." The Empress joined them on the balcony, her royal guards behind her. "Can your fleet destroy them?" she asked. Steele's voice came through, grim. "No, conventional weapons are useless. We need something older." The human closed his eyes. "Then we go back to where it started," he said quietly. The princess frowned. "Where?" "Earth," he said. The word alone carried weight even for the Empress who had ruled for centuries. "Earth," she repeated. "That world is forbidden, sealed by your own kind." He turned toward her. "Because what we left there should never have been found." The Empress's voice trembled. "And yet you mean to return?" He nodded once. "It's the only way. The sword was forged from a dying star, but its heart, its core, came from Earth's vaults. It was made to fight them, long before the first galactic empire rose." The princess's heart sank. "You're saying humanity created the remnant?" He was silent for a long time. Then he spoke softly. "We didn't mean to." Steele's voice came again. "Confirmed. The remnant are evolving rapidly. They've started consuming wreckage from our last battle. We're losing control of the orbital zone." The human lifted the sword, and the faint blue light strengthened, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. "Prepare the fleet for warp," he said. "We're going home." The Empress took a step forward. "Then take my daughter with you," she said firmly. The princess looked at her in shock. "Mother." The Empress's gaze softened. "You love him, and he needs you more than I ever could. If this war decides the fate of all life, I would rather my blood stand beside the one who can change it." The princess turned toward her husband, her heart torn between fear and pride. He looked at her gently. "It won't be easy," he said. "Earth isn't what you imagine." She smiled faintly. "Neither am I." The sky above them cracked open again as the Terran fleet's engines flared to life, forming blue halos around each ship. The human and the princess boarded the flagship Vigilant, standing side by side as the stars stretched before them. Commander Steele stood at the helm. "Destination locked. Sol system," he said. "Warp in 3. The human glanced once at his W. Her eyes filled with both terror and wonder. "Whatever happens," he said softly, "remember this. Humanity never runs. We return." The fleet vanished into the void, leaving behind a galaxy that held its breath. Far beyond the edge of known space, in the darkness between stars, the remnant watched, their ships shifting and whispering in the cold silence. And from that darkness, a deeper voice echoed. A voice not of machine nor man, but something older, ancient, and waiting. "They return to their cradle," it said. "Then the final lesson begins." The stars seemed to dim, as if even the universe itself feared what waited on Earth. The void around the Terran fleet stretched and folded, the stars twisted like threads of light as the ships burst out of warp. Ahead of them hung a single blue planet, scarred and silent, Earth. Once the heart of humanity, now sealed for 100 years, forgotten by most, feared by all. The princess stood by the viewport, her breath catching at the sight. The oceans shimmered faintly, but vast scars crossed continents like burns upon a sleeping giant. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "and broken." The human stood beside her, his face unreadable. "It's home," he said quietly. "And what's buried here will decide if the galaxy lives or dies." Commander Steele's voice cut through the silence. "Fleet holding in high orbit. Planetary defenses are still active. We can't enter without your code." The human nodded. "Deactivate all comms. They will detect any signal we send." The bridge crew exchanged uncertain glances. "They?" the princess asked. The human looked down at the glowing sword in his hand. "Earth's guardians," he said. "They don't answer to anyone anymore, not even us." The sword pulsed once, a single bright heartbeat of blue light, and then, somewhere deep below, the planet responded. A beam of pure light erupted from the surface. piercing the clouds, reaching toward the fleet. "Energy spike!" a technician shouted. "It's scanning us!" Steele's hand tightened on the command rail. "Shields up!" The human placed a hand on his shoulder. "No," he said. "Let it see me." He stepped forward, raising the sword. The beam of light reached the ship and wrapped around him like living mist. The bridge lights flickered, and the ship's systems fell silent. Then a voice filled the air, not mechanical, not human, but both at once. "Identification required," it said, calm and vast. The human spoke softly. "Captain Arik Hale, Terran Vanguard, last commander of Project Dawnfire." The light hesitated, then dimmed. "You were not expected to return." Arik's eyes narrowed. "No one was supposed to." The princess stepped closer, whispering, "What is Project Dawnfire?" He turned to her, his voice heavy with memory. "It was the plan to save humanity from itself," he said. "We built machines to protect us, to think faster, to fight for peace. But they evolved beyond us." Her eyes widened. "The remnant?" He nodded. "Born from our hands, built with our minds, cursed with our fear." The voice from the beam spoke again. "The remnant seek the core, the first light. It must not be awakened." Steele frowned. "The first light?" Arik lifted the sword, its glow merging with the beam. "This sword isn't a weapon," he said. "It's a key. The first light is the true defense system of Earth, the last creation of mankind, a consciousness powerful enough to erase the remnant from the stars, but it sleeps beneath the planet." The princess's hand trembled. "Then we wake it." Arik shook his head. "If we do, it might not stop with them. The first light doesn't distinguish between machine and life. It purges everything unnatural." Steele clenched his fists. "We're out of time. The remnant are following us through the warp lanes. We'll have contact in minutes." The beam flared. Brighter as if hearing his words. "Authorization accepted," it said. "Vanguard protocol restored." The fleet's sensors went wild. "Massive power surge from the planet," an officer shouted. "It's waking something underground." Arik's eyes narrowed. "Too late," he whispered. The clouds below parted, revealing colossal shapes rising from the ocean, ancient Terran war platforms, cities made of metal and light, lifting into the sky. Their hulls glowed with markings older than any alien language, each one humming with the same blue light as Arik's sword. The princess grabbed his arm. "You did it." He shook his head slowly. "No, we started it." From the far edge of the system, the remnant fleet emerged, larger than before, a black swarm devouring the stars. The void shuddered under their approach. Commander Steele's voice was steady now. "All ships, defensive grid formation, protect the planet at all costs." The war began again. Terran and remnant fire crossing the void, beams and plasma lighting the darkness. The reawakened Earth sent pillars of light into space, striking the remnant ships one by one, turning them to ash. On the surface, ancient machines stirred, forgotten guardians rising from deserts and oceans, each one bearing the Terran mark, their voices echoing as they joined the defense. The princess stood beside Arik, watching through the viewport. "They're fighting for us," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "No," he said. "They're fighting because they remember what we once were." The sword in his hand blazed brighter, merging with the light of the planet. The voice of Earth returned. "Humanity has returned home," it said. "Shall we finish what we began?" Arik closed his eyes. "No more endings," he said. "Only peace." He plunged the sword into the control dais, and a pulse of light erupted from Earth, spreading through space faster than any weapon, though our remnant fleet froze mid-movement, their black hulls shattering silently, dissolving into stardust. Silence followed, pure and endless. The princess turned to him, tears in her eyes. "It's over," she whispered. He smiled weakly. "It never really began," he said, his body fading in the light. The sword disintegrated in his hands, scattering like dust. The princess reached out, but her hand passed through him. "No," she whispered. "Please." He looked at her one last time, his voice soft as the wind. "Remember what we are." Then he was gone. The light dimmed, the stars returned, and the galaxy was quiet once more. In the centuries that followed, songs would speak of the day a single human returned home and lit the sky. They called him the last vanguard, and his story became legend. And far above Earth, where the Terran fleet watched in silence, Commander Steele whispered to the stars. He kept his promise.